Thank you, Madam Chair and Ranking Member, and thank you, Director Ray, for being here with us. It looks like I might be your cleanup batter here, so that might be good. I want to go to something that Senator Murkowski was talking about. She talked about her state. You're well aware of West Virginia, unfortunately leading the way, and our numbers went up a little bit over the last year, which was very discouraging because we have a lot of communities and community involvement, and the FBI has been involved with this on the law enforcement side, but all kinds of issues to try to lower those numbers. So it was a bit disappointing to us. But I wanted to ask what the FBI, the drug cartels, the transnational criminal organizations that we see along our southern border mostly, I would imagine, what kind of additional resources or different strategies can the FBI employ? Because obviously fentanyl still streaming across the southern border. They're obviously pressing a lot of the pills before they come over. The whole thing with the chemicals coming from China. What are you seeing in this in terms of targeting the transcontinental criminal organizations?
So certainly the vast majority of the fentanyl in this country comes from the cartels in Mexico, sourced from precursor chemicals from China.
Right.
And then is trafficked here or distributed here primarily by violent gangs. And so I think to be effective against the threat, which is really an epidemic, we need to be trying to hit all of those different choke points. Mm-hmm. The FBI plays some role in almost all of them, but not uniquely. This is way bigger than any one government agency. Frankly, it's bigger than government itself, but so we are, through our Safe Streets Task Forces, going after the gangs that are distributing this stuff on the streets. We are, through our transnational organized crime task forces and working on OCDEF strike forces, going after the cartels and the cartel leadership, which are the source of supply. We are trying to push, in our own way, the Mexicans, and we do have good relationships with our Mexican law enforcement counterparts, but this sort of onesie-twosie effect of a great extradition here, a takedown there, those are things to be celebrated, but they really aren't enough to affect the problem at scale. And then the China piece, the precursor chemicals, is a huge part as well. One of the things we're trying to do now, and I'm very pleased about this, the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, has convened, and we've been doing an intelligence community sprint on the fentanyl problem to try to figure out how we can better ensure sharing of information between the different intelligence agencies who are not law enforcement and law enforcement to have the information flowing. We clearly have to go after the money. After all, this whole thing is profit-based, right? So we need to figure out better ways to go after the money. So some of those are some of the things that need to be done, but it is incredibly frustrating. I know that our offices in West Virginia, who are dealing with, as you say, on the receiving end of so much of this problem, I'm continue to be blown away, frankly, by how high-performing those offices, some of the takedowns they've had in West Virginia for a comparatively small footprint is really something that's inspiring.
I guess that's a plus and a minus. The minus being they're there, the plus being they're being disrupted and caught. So that's congratulations to them. I know there's been some big busts. I want to ask you about the NICS system. Because the question I have is, and thank you for the visit, and I thought it was a really good visit. I'm trying to understand your budget where you have a technical adjustment of $43 million proposed in your budget regarding implementation of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. We're being told that this could impact the 170 people that are at the NICS facility that are working in that. How is that going? And can you explain a little bit the anomaly that you have here as one of the program changes for 2025?
So I can see why it's confusing a little bit. There's two things going on. One is the 170 positions that Congress gave us with BISCA was one-time funding. And so one of our requests, which I think is $43 million tied to the 170 positions, is designed to make sure that one-time funding, because we've largely filled almost all of those 170 positions. If we don't get that reappropriated, that's gone. So that's incredibly important that we get those 170 positions and that $43 million reauthorized. So that's part of it. Then on top of that, though, because of the pace and the volume, we have asked for a smaller, but nonetheless an enhancement. So bottom line, it's not restore, but maintain the
Maintain the
170, which
170.
was one time only,
And then
and then add a little bit with the enhancement that we've asked for.
You know, some of this, and I'll stop here, but the statistics that this was early on when the bipartisan bill was being discussed at NICS. There had been some disruptions where the information showed that if you knew what had happened pre-18 years old, you would have fallen into that category, and there were disruptions where people were unable to secure a weapon and because of mental health or whatever. Is that continuing? I mean, is that trend continuing that is disrupting? Or
We're definitely seeing that. I'm struck by the number of times when we have that, you know, because there's mental health piece, there's the juvenile piece,
Right.
and then there's the contact with law enforcement about the individual piece. And the number of times when the conversation, the exchange with law enforcement in whatever state it is saying, whoa,
Yeah.
yeah, we know who that is, and that would not be a good thing. We have signitignitigantly improved the timeliness of those. You know, I
Yeah,
remember
that
when
was
you
a
and I were
question,
there, it
yeah.
was still kind of a work in progress,
Right.
but I think it's up like tenfold how much faster it's happening, which is great. But part of the reason we asked for the enhancement on top of the original part is that, because of course we're going to conduct the congressionally mandated checks, but
We need more
we
resources.
need more,
to
we're
do it.
very proud, as you know, and as I know you are, of how quickly NICS can turn things around, so that the giant majority of people who are law-abiding
through
citizens
quickly,
who have a Second Amendment right to buy their weapon can get it timely and not have it be
Right.
held up. But the problem, if we don't get the funds appropriated, is it's going to have an impact on how much we can cover and how fast we can cover it.
Yeah, I mean, just for context, I saw the statistics that I have, just last data point is in 2023, there were 29 million NICS firearm background checks in the country that go through the office in West Virginia. So, thank you very much.